Hey everybody, Joe at Bumble Acres. I hope y'all are doing well. I hope this message finds you happy and healthy. Today is it's a Sunday update. We try to do an update at least once a week, and usually I wind up doing two because there's so many projects I'm doing. I share a project. I think I put something up yesterday, but today we're going to talk about a real a first and tough thing. We talk about the first when you're homesteading, your first crops to come through, your first eggs, your first, when it comes down to chickens, your first butchering of a meat bird. That's going to be a memorable thing, your first butchering. And yesterday was a first, and it really put a lot, how do you process the moment? I'll tell you, then we'll talk about it afterwards. So, yesterday, Gage had a friend over, drove off. He's in soccer. He drove his friend home and was getting ready to go to the training. And on the way home, was a rabbit and hit by a car. And he got the rabbit, brought it home, showed it to me, and we looked and kind of was like, "What can we do?" And I was like, "Well, I'll look and see what options we've got." And put the rabbit in a separate space, and then Gage went on to practice. I went in, and it occurred to me like 4 or 5 minutes afterwards that this for one, it's a wild rabbit. Wild rabbits don't domesticate well. Generally, especially like if you ever catch baby rabbits, like don't try to nurse them. They won't take. They will take care of their mother. And you can, if you disturb the nest, the mother may just abandon the rabbits, the baby rabbits. I forget what they're called, so forgive me. So that's the kind of the brutality of nature. But I had this, suffering rabbit. I know it had some pretty severe injuries with hurt to the leg, but there were some other injuries that it was suffering through, and it was clearly in distress and in a level of pain. And realized I could not save this rabbit. And then B, there is for all those that are rabbit raising, if you haven't known, there is a disease that's going through the United States of America. It's actually going around. I know that it's greater than the U.S., but it is in the United States of America. There is a disease that is ravaging the wild rabbits, and it does get caught by domesticated rabbits, and it's ravaging colonies of rabbits. So a lot of the rabbit production has been severely hurt by this disease, highly contagious, and it just kills off the rabbits. So I could not keep the rabbit, even if it had been healthy. I could not keep it. I cannot vouch for its background, whether it's sick, and whether it will lead to disease in the rest of my colony. So I had to kill the rabbit, and I, for the first thing in my entire life, I killed the rabbit with my bare hands, broke its neck. And in that moment, you really you come face to face with a lot of things about yourself. And for me, it really we talk about, I was talking to some of my friends in the homestead, the difference between butchering and culling, or harvesting and culling. And then you harvest an animal when it's ready and it's ready for production. And you've raised it for meat, and it is time to harvest. So you harvest it. That's the process you go through, upon which for the sorry, there's a car in front of me. Oh wow, must have been a pretty bad accident. Okay, but harvesting and culling. Harvesting is you've raised an animal for a specific purpose, for some meat or product of it. The time has come for the butchering of that animal, for the harvesting for your own consumption. So there's harvesting, and then there's culling. And culling of an animal is what you do when there is some kind of defect, or there's something within that animal that you cannot allow the genetics to continue on. Mother Nature would never allow the genetics to continue on. And you'll see this physically, if there's physical attributes, but you'll also see this personality-wise. With rabbits, if you've got a buck that is very, very, you want a buck that's gentle, you want a buck that does its job with the doe, but you want a buck that isn't mean and biting and things of that nature. And if you get one that is, you can't train it out of them. You cull it so that that attribute does not continue on. And it's better for the collectiveness of your colony. But that's part of being a provider for your animals, is recognizing that culling is important. And with this rabbit, I could not save this rabbit. This rabbit needed to be culled, and that's the most humane way. A quick breaking of the neck, it was over. Momentary sense of pain for the rabbit, it's done. Like, that is, in that sense, that is the most humane thing you can do. But it doesn't feel that way, and that's where we get into when we talk about butchering, and that we have a tendency to think of humane as basically humane is all about having life, not the quality of that life. And we need to, when we have a conversation about humane behaviors, and we talk about butchering and culling and harvesting, that we do discuss the fact that the quality of life is important. And sometimes you cull something because it doesn't have the quality of life that it needs to have. It doesn't have what it needs for you. And that's a tough part of homesteading. That's a tough part about raising animals. If you're gardening, you still go through and you pick if you're like heirloom tomatoes, you pick the tomatoes, the best tomatoes you've got, and you save the seeds for the next year. You continue on those genetics. That's still harvesting, that's still culling, it just doesn't have a heartbeat, so you look at it different. But it's the same general process. And that's tough. As a homesteader, if you're going to be raising your own meat, you need to understand the concepts of harvesting, culling, and butchering. And you will have to deal with those realities in life and death. There's a saying in raising animals: if you deal in livestock, you will have dead stock. That's just part of life. Creatures die. And sometimes you are an active part of that death process, but that does not, you are not the master of death. You shouldn't carry that burden on yourself. You are a part of the life cycle of life and death. And that's important. So harvesting, culling, butchering, and kind of yesterday was a real visceral experience with that concept. So hope you all are having a great day. Hope you all are doing well. Joe with Bumbling Acres. Bye.